In order to help you out, I'm going to need you to do two things for me. First thing is pull up a chair and then take a seat. And not only are we going to sit here and actually learn what we need to do to fix these muscle tightnesses, but we're actually going to do the first stretch. And the first muscle that I want you to target is called the peroneal muscles. And it's a muscle group actually on the outside of our lower leg. And probably if you just run your hand up and over this area here, you might feel that it gets kind of painful. Oftentimes this muscle can get tight in people with flat feet because as the arches collapse down, this muscle becomes shorter and shorter. So how do we target this? All you got to do from this sitting position is take the soles of your feet and put them flat together, which is going to require you to roll them out. And from this position here, we got a good stretch because those muscles wrap under the foot. Now we want to use our hands on the seat and just try to stand up as much as we can, bringing our knees together. You're going to be limited by the tightness in this muscle, and you'll feel it here, and that's what you want, that good stretch for about a minute to a minute and a half. Now you can do this at any time of the day. You can do it at night, as I recommend most static stretches, or you can simply do it during the day because it's going to make you feel better. Just make sure you stop forgetting this muscle altogether. The second muscle is actually one you can't even touch. And we're talking about the subscapularis because it's actually underneath this shoulder blade. You can see it's the one that runs right up under here. And you can't even palpate it even if you wanted to. But it doesn't mean that it's not doing its damage by becoming tight. And we need to do something about it. And how do we do that? With one of these. Just a regular broom, a mop, or anything, a PVC pipe that you could use as a dowel. And all you have to do is just throw it over your shoulder like this, as if you're carrying a jacket. You line it up with the middle of your bicep, and then you reach in front and grab the broomstick from the front side. And then you open your chest up nice and wide and start to pull up on that stick. And what this is doing is, you can see, is getting external rotation at the shoulder. That subscapularis muscle is ironically one of the rotator cuff muscles, but it's the only one that internally rotates the shoulder of the four. You obviously have a lot more internal rotation going on with other muscles too, so you want to make sure you're doing your best to increase your range of motion into external rotation. This stretch is one that you can do anytime during the day. Hold it for 45 to 60 seconds, make sure you work both sides, and I promise this shoulder of yours is going to feel a hell of a lot better. I think we all can agree that we've become pretty imbalanced people, at least posturally. We lost the war against gravity a long time ago because we've let those anterior chain muscles pull us down and forward without doing enough work for those posterior chain muscles to create that balance that we need. However, it's actually one of those anterior chain muscles that we never even focus our attention on that's doing a lot of the damage. And the easiest way to fix that is with one of these. Yes, there's actually still a use for a physio ball, and the muscle we're talking about is the rectus abdominis, the abs, the function of which is to pull your rib cage closer to your pelvis to round out that lower back. Now, if it rounds out the low back, it also tends to round out the upper back, contributing to this poor posture that we have. But we can stretch it with this physio ball simply by allowing ourselves to contour over the ball. And you do that first by dropping your hips down, allowing them to drop over the front side of the ball and pull those arms up over your head. And what this is doing is creating that separation that we're looking for between the lower ribs here and your pelvis that's going to place a really nice stretch on the abs. 45 to 60 seconds at a time, 2 to 3 times a day, especially if you're demonstrating either that rounded shoulder posture or if you just sit a lot. The fourth muscle is another one of those out of sight, out of mind, or actually out of touch muscles, because this one is really, really deep. And we're talking about the QL or the quadratus lumborum. You can see that it's the muscle that attaches here to your pelvis and then to the vertebrae in your lumbar spine. And what it does is it hikes the hip up from one side or the other. And it also has a really important role of stabilizing you while you walk. But what happens is we oftentimes don't even sit right? We're doing too much sitting as it is, but we don't even sit properly because we usually choose one cheek over the other. And what happens there is when you do it, you get that lateral shift and then that hip will get higher and shorten this muscle. So what are we supposed to do about it? Well, we got to stretch it. And the best way to do this is what we call a QL slide. You get to this all fours position. You're going to slide one leg back just like that. Allow it to drop down to the ground so that the outside of your hip hits the ground, and you can see that muscle is actually being targeted nicely here, stretching from the top of that pelvis in through that lumbar spine, getting some of the lateral flexion that drops the hip down, but also allowing you to post off of this arm over here to intensify the stretch. And again, we hold this for about a minute or a minute and a half, making sure we do both sides. Not only will you start to feel looser in this area, but for those of you that have a lot of back pain that's unexplainable, this is oftentimes the cause. Start working this in, and I promise you, you're going to feel a lot better. And that brings us to muscle group number 5, and maybe it's actually one you even try to stretch. And we're talking about the lats. And if this is what you're doing to stretch it, can I ask you to consider something different? I actually made an entire video on how to stretch the lats, and it's actually going to help you to stretch that QL at the same time. You can watch that right here. And if you haven't done so, guys, make sure you click subscribe and turn your notifications so you never miss a video when we put one out. All right, guys, I'll see you soon.